Kathy Roberts, big welcome to you and a bigger thank you for being here and having this conversation with me.
Well, thank you, thank you, thank you for inviting me. I really appreciate it, and I'm excited to be here.
Before we kick in to the chat, Kathy, I did want to share something with you. And because would you ever like to know what people say behind your back?
I love to hear it sometimes, but I also am immune, good, bad, or indifferent. I'm like, what do people say to behind my back? I'm like, sometimes the stories are compelling. I'm like, I don't remember the story being that big. Yes, I want to know what they say behind my back.
This is one of the first things that I heard about you, and there was a man who I very much admire, is very impressive, has built many businesses into the billions, so he's definitely got the runs on the board. And I remember him saying that he walked into this conference over in the States, and it was to talk about blockchain, to talk about this technology that was going to disrupt business and how to be involved, how to position your business and how to adopt this technology. And he said he walked into the room and he saw Kathy Roberts. And that was the moment where he knew, wow, I better listen up, because anyone who is anyone in banking and finance knows Kathy Roberts, and you made him sit down and listen in. So I just wanted to share that with you because that's what's being said behind your back, Kathy.
I so appreciate that. And sometimes I think I have the ability to make you listen, and then sometimes I'm also famous for saying, "Hey, are you guys still there? You know, is everybody still there? Is your mind still on what we're talking about?" So.
Yeah. Well, and especially and what we're going to talk about today, it might be really new for people listening in. Like I said, this whole decentralized finance and decentralized networks, I've been playing this space for a couple of years, but a lot of the time when we're learning something new, it's literally new language. It's jargon,
Absolutely.
it's new terminology that we have to adopt. But before we get into all that nitty-gritty stuff, let's kick it off. I'd love for you to just share, like what you do, what your current role is, and even what you love most about the work that you're doing at the moment.
Oh, I'd love to share that. Um, I am the CEO of Switch Reward Card, and just like you, 5 years ago, I had not been paying a great amount of attention to these new markets. And I was very fortunate to have a mentor who took time to show me, tell me, explain what was going on and what was changing in the world. And at first I thought, oh, sure. Or at first I thought, that's interesting. But as I got more into the review of what was changing in the world and what was going to change around the entire globe, that's when I started understanding how important blockchain and crypto were to the forthcoming economy and what changes were going to happen.
Mm.
And so, in my current role as CEO at Switch, we've been out there in this fight for several years now. But the reward card itself is being developed and is just about to launch for the second time because of some of the changes in the regulatory environment. And in that role, I look for the opportunity to spread this product and the word about the changing economy across the entire globe, not
Mm-hmm.
just the United States, the entire globe. There'll be a few exceptions of countries that we can't enter, but we will be marching around the world with this message, which gives people some freedom. It goes past borders. It goes past time frames. It's never closed, and it's not traditional in the standpoint of you have to be able to get to a bank at a certain time of day. It's not traditional in that you have to have a certain credit score. It's not traditional in the fact that, if you don't fit the mold, you can't play. This is something that everyone could be involved in, and that's what got me to be involved in this last project.
Tell me a little bit more about that because I want to pick your brain on a couple of things that you said there soon, which is the message you're going to be marching around the world with, and also the changing economy. And we'll go into detail with that as well. But take us back with, because I want to know what drew you in to this project, because my understanding is you actually stepped into retirement after a long career within this space. And even take us back to that. Like, how did you even get into banking and finance? Then you've gone into retirement, but then something's drew you back in.
I did retire from uh, the finance world in 2006.
Mhm,
And yesterday I looked at the calendar and I thought, oh my goodness, this is my anniversary date. I started work 54 years ago. Now I was in high school, so I wasn't finished with college. I got a Christmas job at Sears and, thought, okay, I'll work through January and then that'll be the end of that. Well, 15 years into my career at Sears, um, someone called me and said, do you mind moving to Chicago? We've got a project there, a small project that is a subsidiary, and they need some help. And that was the Discover card, which at that time was the first new card in 23 years, a challenger to the regular system of MasterCard, Visa, American Express. But it also had some unique properties, and one was cash back. At first, the market said, it will never work. You'll never make any money giving cash back. And even the Wall Street Journal said that. You'll never make it. All of those things made me and my colleagues more determined, and we knew we could do it. We'd planned it for years. Nothing is an overnight success. There was a lot of planning that went into that. However, if you look at that time and today, what card doesn't have some kind of benefit to it? It's the
mhm,
most copied thing ever since. And at the time that I took that position, set my sights on something very high in the company. I said, oh, gee, I ran one of the payrolls. I was working in Chicago. Sears Savings Bank was in California, and that's where we ran the payroll out of. So I'd be flying back and forth. But actually, after I saw that first payroll, I'm like, gee, I think I should be the president of this place. Um, and uh, I really thought, there's no rationale for me not to have exactly what I want out of a career, no matter who had been in that job before, whether a woman had been in that job or not. So when I retired in '06, I retired as the president of Discover Bank. Now, there's a side story in there. I adopted a baby, my first child,
Oh,
and
how fun.
I was 48. And I always tell people today, I could manage a $54 billion portfolio, but I couldn't manage a 2-year-old. And the nannies were raising him. And I thought, this is a good opportunity for me to retire. And at that point, Discover was owned by Morgan Stanley. They had separated the companies. And so my opportunities had really expanded, well into, I did okay for a girl. And I was always the closest guy to Morgan Stanley to run up from Delaware to New York. So had an opportunity to work with a lot of the individuals there and understand that business quite as well. So that retirement, after a while, I ran some smaller businesses, but into retirement, you kind of think the phone's going to stop ringing, but it didn't.
Mm,
And when this opportunity came up, and when I saw what this was going to do to the globe, it reignited that passion that I have to give something else to the globe that equalizes things for people. And when you talk about the world economy, it's going to drastically change and it's going to shift from the places it's been. Manufacturing does require more hands, it requires young people. And in some of the more developed parts of the world, we have stopped having children. And
mm.
some of the underdeveloped parts of the world, they will start succeeding with some of those things like manufacturing. Their economies will rise. So things will start shifting. This is all public information. Any world economist will tell you that. And
So
I would
what
like to see that happen for those countries too.
Absolutely. And I mean, let's talk about that because obviously you understood something. Like, was there a light bulb moment for you when it came to Switch and the mission of Switch with how it closes the gap or solves a problem that clearly just listening to is important to you or that you could see happening in the world?
Yes, there was absolutely a light bulb moment. You know, initially I had called and was talking to an individual that I'd worked with before, the person who's founded these technologies. And he said to me, "Oh, hey, Kathy." We hadn't talked for years. And he says, "I'm just stepping off the platform at Davos explaining a technology I've developed." And he proceeded to tell me about it. And I'm thinking in the back of my mind, well, if you just stepped off the platform at Davos, why did you take my call? But he's the kind of guy who would always take the call, and he very carefully explained to me about Bitcoin, about the new markets,
Mhm.
about wallets, about the importance of being in control. Um, and then as I developed more of an interest in reading about it and finding out what was going on in these new markets, I think part of it was the borderlessness. I thought, this is
Mm,
not controlled by a government. And of course, banks have always gotten their power from the government.
mhm.
And this is also something that everyone could participate in. And it, again, was more inclusive versus exclusive. And that I thought this could do a lot for a lot more than just my own portfolio or a job or something of that sort. This actually changes the game. That's when the
Can
light bulb came on.
Yeah. Can you, I guess for the everyday person like me, just expand on that? Because that's big. Like borderless, we hear that word, but that's big. What does that mean in like an everyday example for someone? Because I know
For
you mentioned equalization, right?
yes,
Equalization for
it's
people.
really important because today most of us have rules that we abide by based on where we live.
Mhm.
So tomorrow, if I want to leave my home and go someplace else and transport cash, the maximum amount I could take in cash is, I think, up to about $10,000.
Mhm.
Tomorrow, if you go into a bank and you ask for, and you bring them a bag of money, and you bring them $11,000, at least here in the United States, they will have to file a SAR report, a report that says this person brought in cash. So they're tracking exactly what you're doing. Um, I don't have anything to hide, but I am a private person. And if I have cash, I have cash.
Mhm.
If, you know, I bring in a check, that won't be suspected. But if you have your technology or a person in Kenya, let's say I was visiting there a few years ago, drilling wells, doing some charitable work. I saw the little malls that people had set up for themselves, and they had built the malls and they had their goods and services, and I was pleased to shop there. But a girlfriend had said to me, hurry up and bring your product because I don't want to carry cash. I don't want to carry my traditional credit cards. But every kid who doesn't have a good pair of shoes has one of these.
Mhm.
And your technology could be there and they could trade using this alternative currencies that we're now seeing and developing all across the globe very easily without having a huge infrastructure that they have to build upon or having to go through all the pains of, this is what you have to be able to do transactions with a credit card. They could be one on one, and I thought that is a game changer.
Well, that's life changing for
Mhm.
people in those countries.
In those countries, let's say that person made an extra $50 per month. On average in that country and the countryside, they're making $30 per family per month. let's say they brought in an extra 50, that is life changing. It might be food on the table. Things
Mm,
that you and I don't think about as far as how much difference that could make in some of those
yeah, how
places.
far that can go. Yeah.
Mhm.
Wow, and that's what this
Absolutely.
technology allows. So that was kind of the turning point, the epiphany for you. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And I think all of us have interest in things as they develop,
Yeah.
but that ignited more of a passion. Like, well, yeah, I'm retired. Can I come out of retirement and do something else? Absolutely. And if I don't, who will influence it if I don't? So I felt that I could be of service and influence. And if this all succeeds, and I really thought at that point, I know it's going to succeed, um, then there is opportunity to expand not only my own portfolio, but others who are involved in this, and people who might not have been able to go to Wall Street and buy stock or
Mhm.
participate in that economy can participate in this one.
Yeah, I love that. How would you sum up in, I guess, simple terms, the mission of Switch in your own words?
The mission of Switch is very simple. Right now, we are a bridge while the world still has to participate in what we call Web 2, while we're transitioning to Web 3. This is the opportunity for people to have their Web 3 cryptocurrencies and those markets when they want to change them to fiat. We are that bridge because they may need to change it to fiat to sit down to have dinner, pay the mortgage, or something of that sort. While we believe the world is going towards Web 3, where you'll be able to transact in fiat and has already started. As you've seen recently, all the big companies have now changed their song and are involved. So I think that will change over time, but we do have the traditional individual wallets that you can keep your crypto in. We don't know what's in there. And then
Mhm.
we have a transitional wallet when they need to move it to be able to transition it to a fiat or a cash kind of component and use it on their card to spin. Then we have that available. We also have a trade platform. So if they wanted to purchase additional crypto or offload crypto, we have that platform. We also have other products that will be added to that. Today, if you go on, you can buy a gift card with your Switch points. So there are many things that we think we'll have on that platform and are negotiating new items every day that will be the future of your transition from Web 2 to Web 3. While we still have Web 2 in play, we still have to use the traditional banks or a fintech is what we are, and we have other partners that help us do the rest of that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because what do you see? I want to pick your brain on this, but first, what are the biggest, I guess, challenges right now or misconceptions of the everyday person understanding this transition, like really combining this crypto, this Web 3, where we're going away from this traditional finance system?
I think a lot of it is fear-based.
Yeah.
However, over the last several years, I think people have noticed that it has gotten more common. Younger people have adopted it, and at first, the fear was based on bad actors. So you had some debacles where an initial coin offering wasn't real, or somebody ran away with all the money, or something of that sort. Well, that creates a problem in this whole business. Um, for example, I think somebody of myself, I always prided myself in my reputation and doing things well, working with regulators and
Mm,
coloring inside the lines, but challenging things when I thought they were inappropriate or wrong or but the fear was there and it was real. Now we've come into a time frame where people understand this is going to happen. If you look historically at how things were traded or bartered, everything has changed over time. This is the latest iteration. It's more efficient. It is less expensive. We've heard that they're going to quit printing the pennies because it costs 3 or 4 cents to make one. These transactions can happen, as I said earlier, anytime, any of the day, and they move much faster. One great example was, I think, with the issue in the world of wars, that request for help came out between Russia and the current scenarios now, and overnight, I think it was $4 million was donated that could not have been donated because it was overnight. The banks weren't open. People were just pouring in Bitcoin and different things to help fuel the defense. Um, Transactions of that type used to have to wait, and no longer is that the case.
Mm, yeah, it's so powerful. And I love your I think that more people need to hear that. This is where we're going. This is the next evolution. This is the next step. And it is just reducing that fear. And fear usually comes from, like you said, either someone's bad experience or just the unknown. And that's what I love about Switch. I think, as you said, it's like, how do you guys make it easy for the everyday person to participate in this new world that we're entering in?
And I think that's really important. Easy is important because, as you know, I'm not the technologist in all of this. Have passed the pale on that. But one of the things that we thought was important, or really I thought was important, was to have customer service. And when you look into today's sites, everybody assumes that everybody knows technology really well. Well, that customer service background that I had was very intense and important. And so we still provide an opportunity for customer service at every level to our clients. And that might be whether it's they want to just go into Zendesk and ask a question. We have all our FAQs out there, and then if it comes down to it, I just reviewed a call today that our customer service agent sent to me where a couple of ladies wanted an appointment to talk to somebody, and they got a physical phone call. We
Yeah.
set that up and went through all their questions and answered them all. And if they wanted additional information or they want a Zoom or something of that sort, it's all available. I challenge anybody to call anyone with in this business that will give you that customer service.
Yep.
And when we do our reviews and get them back from people, our ratings are in the 90s. Now, we're small, we're moving ahead. We want everyone to spread that word. You might not need that level of customer service if you are so well entrenched in technology, but if you need it, we have it. And that
Yeah, and
is very
I think
unusual. I don't think you'll find it anywhere else.
well, no, because that's the there's always an upside and a downside. And today we're in this world where, yeah, we have technology that can fill the gaps, but the other side of that is we lose the connection and we lose that real person to person conversation. And so having that care factor, it's actually a point of difference, and it shouldn't be. It should be what's normalized in business, but having care factor is actually a point of difference now in business. And I think of like my mom, I think of my dad. They don't know how to do all of this. To
That's right.
participate in this, great. They're like, I get it, but how do I do this? You're talking about wallets, you're talking about trading platforms, you're talking about a whole different world. And so to be able to support people, as you said, with the ease, how does Switch make this simple for people to transition? Is so great. Can we talk about? I want to actually talk about a few of the products that you mentioned as well. So the Switch reward card, and more so like what they are from a customer perspective and the difference you think that they can make. So the Switch reward card, would love for you to talk on the Switch token and its like real case utility. What does that mean? And also the software, which is called Nodes, and it allows a decentralized network. And the everyday person, like I own a Switch node, What is that?
Oh,
What is
congratulations. Thank you.
Yeah, like, but what does that mean for the everyday person in your eyes? So those three
Yeah.
products would love for you to touch on.
Yeah, the reward card, as I said, is a traditional Visa or MasterCard, and it will depend on where you are located, what you will receive.
Yeah.
That services and payment services last year, if you look at the number of transactions between Visa and MasterCard and actually stable coins, last year, stable coins outpaced Visa and MasterCard combined, which also tells you this is the way the world is moving. So, delivery of a transaction where you need to use the Visa MasterCard, you'll be able to use your Switch reward card, but you don't have to move your cryptocurrency out of cryptocurrency until you're ready.
Mhm.
So the second iteration of transactions or the way the programming will work will let you store that up ahead of time if you want to. But if you decide tonight's the night to go out for dinner, you move from crypto to fiat, and then you can just lay down your card like you normally would your debit card. Depending on what geographic location you're in, it could have a full bank account behind it. And so there are some variances depending on what country you're in, that type
Mhm.
of thing. So it's a traditional vehicle, but that means you don't have to move your crypto until you're ready. And we are pleased that, Visa and MasterCard understand our business well enough that we're able to offer that around the globe. We have two different providers involved there, and one is domestic for the United States, and the other one is for the rest of the globe. When you talk about the token itself, the Switch token is called Switch. It's all in caps. And this is the real important piece to understand. We launched that in February of 23, and we
Mhm.
were involved in the development of the token, along with the founder who put in a ton of money to develop the blockchain and the token. But once we launched it, guess who owns it? The node owners, the people who bought nodes which give you the reward. So the node itself is software. This is not an initial coin offering. The software node produces the switch token. Once that token is out there, the owners of the token can exchange that freely in the market, but it no longer belongs to Switch Reward Card. That is a community driven token, a community focused token, and the markets will drive that. I cannot make that token go up or down. Now, I've owned stocks before. I said, like Estee Lauder, I would say I buy so much of that, I can make the stock go up and down. But in this case, the CEO of the company has no ability to make that go up or down or make my wealth go up or down. It is belongs to the community. It is on the open market. And the utility of that token is what I'm interested on the Switch
Mhm.
reward card side. So we drive the utility of the token. If more people are buying the token out of the market, we think that will make the token more valuable. As people say, yes, I want a Switch token to pay my bank fees or my card fees on the Visa MasterCard side, or I want to go buy a gift certificate or something else that we're offering at Switch. We think that's what's going to drive the token. Now, when you get to the case of everyday people looking at that, as we add other products and services, today we also offer business accounts. And I don't know that people think of that as I need my personal account, but I also have a business. Most
Mhm.
of the people that are going to be listening to this have businesses. And if you don't already accept crypto in your business, there's another consideration, and we can provide that service for you. I talked to a particular provider that said, "Can you split the ticket for me?" Absolutely. I can pay the salesperson that day or the driver that day along with the company that day. And we can provide credit card services if you want that all in a package. So we have competitive advantage. because the world is going to start saying, yeah, I want to take crypto. And crypto, again, is faster. At the end of the day, it's cheaper. There's
Yeah.
not going to be a merchant fee taking out of that. So if your business doesn't accept crypto, think about that and we can give you a quote for that. So there are a lot of real world cases that you should consider every day. And if you're running a business and how you're doing that. So personally or professionally, this is the way the world is moving, and we can provide that value for you.
That's so awesome. Can you share with me? Because one thing that we speak a lot about is, I think people are in this world right now, and it can't be dismissed, whether you feel it, whether you've experienced it, whether you see it. Um, there's this level of, and you were sharing examples before, you go into the bank, you give $10,000, well, you're going to get red flagged for something. You go into the bank, you try and pull $10,000, you're not getting it that day. There's a level of control. There's a level of let's say, negative impact when it comes to centralization. And I think whether it's in all different industries and people are feeling that, what do you see like with the space that we're now moving into? In your eyes, how does this give the everyday person more independence, more ownership, more ability to be part of something rather than just the result of something? It's we're in this world where we call it's this big extraction model. And we as the everyday person, we're the ones that deal with all the problems of that extraction model. And to me, I see as we move from, centralized institution into decentralized networks, and that's what, node ownership and participating in this new marketplace allows us to do. There's just so much more sovereignty in that. It's shifting this imbalance that I think people can feel right now in the world.
It is a whole different mindset. And
Mm,
sometimes our mindsets are what limit us. This is decentralized, and it can be in finance and many other spaces, along with other things that today we sell our souls a little bit in the marketing arenas. Every time we use a product that we think is free is not necessarily free. Sometimes they're selling your information, they're selling your preferences. What
yeah,
they market to you next will be based on your last transaction. And in this decentralized space, and as a node owner, you have a voice. I have bought stock traditionally like anybody else, and I had a voice when you would mail in your ballot, but I was not the major owner of most of those stocks. And, you're certainly probably not going to make as big of an impact. But as a node owner in the decentralized space, we're listening, and that's why there are so many different listening points, whether it's in a community call, whether it's in a community update. Node owners are always included. They're the ones who own this. They're the ones who own the Switch token as a community. That community has its own leader, and it's not me. It is someone in that community that is a node owner, that is active, that is making an influence with others of, don't you want to come aboard and be active in this community and have a say? Now, tell me how often that happens. Um, Recently, I was on a speaking event with a lot of node owners, and I gave them all my email, and I gave them all my phone numbers. You can call me. Now, if you can call uh, the CEO of the other companies that you might be using and get some attention, I'd love to see that. But we really are dedicated to this decentralized. You are the owner. You could make the influence. You can tell me what kinds of improvements you'd like to see. You can tell me what kind of changes you'd like to see. And certainly they're all going to be within, what can we afford to do? How often do people use us? So if you own it, use us. If you own it, trade with us. If you own it, I think you're more interested than if you just happen to be a user. And that's what decentralization can do for us.
Yeah, it's
Um,
powerful.
you can bring the next new idea.
Hmm. Absolutely. Um, You mentioned something, and I feel like I've heard it a couple of times from you because I've listened to you on a couple of different calls, and you have this big heart, Kathy. That is undeniable. That is for sure. And like you said, yes, Switch, like leading Switch being the CEO, there was, with the blockchain technology, we're seeing where the world was going. You had the friend of yours that helped you connect the dots, and you're like, this makes sense. I have to help lead this. But behind it was the passion, the passion to create equalization, the passion to make a difference, the passion to actually help the everyday person be part of this new world with ease. But you've also mentioned a few times, yeah, it's great to create your own wealth and expand your portfolio, but you're able to expand others with this as well. Can you kind of touch on that a little bit more for me? Like, what does that look like for you? Is that just in Switch? Is that in different projects that you work in, like helping others increase their portfolio and their wealth?
I think part of that comes from the fact that someone else helped me.
Mm,
Um, I am not the product of a failed home or anything of that sort. When you talk about some people that really make it big in the world, a lot of times the drive comes from not having. And I've never been in that situation. Everything was perfect for me. I'm the middle child. I had two older brothers who had to probably put up with, they're 11 and a half and 12 and a half years older than me, and I'm the
yeah.
middle child. And then I had younger sisters. So nothing was wrong, but I had a failure in my life. And when that failure came along, it really fueled me to think I need my own independence
Hmm.
and I will do everything for myself that I want to have happen. But in that, I had backup, I had family, etc. And I had a supportive group of people that I worked with who showed me different things that I may have never picked up in college or other places.
Hmm.
So it was important to develop other backup, whether it's family, friends, mentors, etc. But I think it's vitally important that as I was moving along those lines in the corporate world, that you reach back and make sure that somebody else behind you also got all of those skills, all of those opportunities, got some fuel. And if somebody came to me before and said, I really want to figure out how to fuel my career a little bit better or do better or get more money or gain this or gain this opportunity, I would sit down and chat with them a long time and I would say, you know, and this was, some time ago when the dress code was different. I said, I have a pair of high heel shoes on and I will put them right in the center of your back and push you, but you've got to really want this.
Mm,
And so from that opportunity, I had excess, which allowed me to do some things like I talked about drilling wells in Kenya,
mm,
allowed me to make a donation to a new church in my association when they were building in the name of my parents, but they were obviously the lead donors in that particular case. Um, it it got to the point, I think when you get to the point when there's enough money,
mhm,
um, after that, it all is really about what do I bring to the table? What passions can I bring? And what else can I do to contribute? And who else can I pull along the way? Because there are certainly other people that deserve that opportunity. There are others that didn't have maybe the push of a family or something else to bring them along. And so you've got to bring them along too. And if you don't make space for yourself in the future. You
mm,
always want that person who's next to you or behind you to be prepared. I used to say when I'd leave work, I said, now, if perhaps I get hit by a dump truck on the way home, you guys know exactly what to do to keep this going, right? You know, I never wanted to have it be the case that everything was dependent on me. I like the lateral piece that everybody understands how this works And my customer service person can explain switch to you just as well as I can.
Mm,
That's what I really adore. So it's not about maybe me as an individual, but I am always, from day one, passionate about the mission and passionate about the business and getting to the stated goals that we've all agreed on. It
mm.
is really important, and you can't do that by yourself. You just can't.
No, absolutely not. You are just, gosh, you're a good human, Kathy. That's all I'm sitting here thinking. I'm like, this woman, I just want to be like her when I grow up. It is,
Well,
you
I
know,
appreciate
like
that.
so much wisdom in what you just shared there. I know I'm just going to be putting that on repeat. And I think so many, so many people need to hear that. It is about that because sometimes, and Jen and I speak about this a lot with the ladies that we work with, but it's the missing piece. We're waiting to have the thing and get the thing before we start contributing in the different way that we can. It doesn't always have to be money, but it can be our vision, it can be our skills, it can be our transfer of knowledge and wisdom and that contribution piece. It makes everything make sense, right? But it also just makes everything worthwhile. And
It
yeah,
it
just
does, and you don't know, you don't always know. I was
yeah,
just contacted recently by a young woman who, I worked with maybe 30 years ago, who's putting up her own charity and doing
yeah.
some incredible things in the space, and, she asked for help, and I said, "Of course, I'll help you." And I think at first she was surprised I remember her. I said, "Of course I remember you." And, then she said, "What I remember was the first time I saw you." She said, "The first time I saw you and you were speaking in front of this group of 1,000 people and compelling them to get to this goal." And I thought, "Oh my God, there's a woman and there's a minority woman." And,
Mm,
she's Polynesian. She says, "It was the very first time I ever saw someone who was in charge and who was going to lift us all to go to where we were going." And I thought, maybe I can do that too. Well, you always have someone in that stream who makes you believe, I can do that too. I can do that too. I gotta tell you, I met, um, Diane Carroll late in my career. We sponsored her biography, but when I was a little kid, on the TV, she had the first television show that featured an African American woman as a star,
mhm.
and this was in the day when on TV, if an African American was on a commercial, we would go running through the house and say, "There's a black person on the TV," and we'd all run to see who it was, see what the 30 seconds of a black person on TV. Well, Diane Carroll had her own show, and I can remember thinking when I saw her show, I thought, "Oh no, I have to be a nurse," because I thought, "Okay, I don't think I can be a nurse," but I thought we're all going to have to be nurses now. And I met her and I said to her, at this event where the company was sponsoring her biography. And when I walked in, of course, they bring me over and introduced me. And I said, "Oh, Miss Carroll, you don't know how much you meant to all of us as children." And she said to me, "How is it to be the president of a bank?" I'm like, "A bank? What's the bank got to do with it?" I'm like, I'm never starstruck, hardly ever. But that day I was starstruck.
Yeah, yeah,
And she was so pleasant to ask me about my career where I'm thinking, I'm talking to an icon here. But who doesn't remember, of my age, doesn't remember that TV show coming on and say, "Oh, there's a professional woman. She's an African American. I can do that too." So
yeah.
there's always someone watching. You don't know who, but you might inspire without even having a conversation.
So
There's
true.
always that opportunity for some child somewhere, someplace that sees what you're doing and thinks, "I can do that too."
Yeah, you're so right. It's just you can always be someone else's possibility, right? And until we
Absolutely.
see something, and that's why I'm so grateful, for women, for leaders like you, for other people who I think are just exceptional humans doing incredible things in the world. I'm so great. I'm usually in awe because I'm like, there are skills that I don't have that they do. But that's the beauty, right? But
I think you're doing pretty good.
it just opens your lid of possibility, right? Sometimes we do need to see what's possible, and then we expand from there. And big thank you for you being one of those women, for sure. Last question as we wrap up, Kathy. For those listening in, and who are intrigued by Switch, really want to step into this space, learn more, whether it be from a customer perspective, even being able to buy the software and be part of it. What's the simplest way to really get involved? Where do they go?
It's really simple to get involved. Our website, and for all of you that have seen it before, it's being reworked right now. I think we have the first rendition of it coming. It's switchrewardcard.com. Now, if you know someone who's already in the community, they will be happy to help you also take a look at the opportunities that are there. Whether you want to become a node owner, or if you so desire that you want to get on the wait list for the card, we're in the alpha testing for the card right now, and that's a great place to participate. We also have had the opportunity for those who uh, have a node to double their rewards by
Uh,
buying some NFTs that are out there, but everything's going to be on that site. So
what?
the opportunity to participate there is always open.
Yeah. What, in your words, what are the benefits? Why be a node owner?
The node owners get the advantage of being able to vote.
Hmm.
So when we launch the node, it has a compression of how many tokens you receive. And most people are participating because of the number of tokens. But beyond that, you also have the opportunity to give proposals or to vote on proposals and to be an owner in the network.
Okay.
Um, Owning the token will happen because people will buy it out of the market, but it does not get you a vote as a owner of the nodes. So that is the difference. And I
Hmm.
think we'll have both, but I've always liked owning something.
Me too. Yeah, me too. Both is good, but one is better.
Yeah. And we'll have also the information
Yeah.
if you're a business owner and you want to come
Mm,
in, after you've done your personal account, after you've got your trade wallet up, to also put in a business, account if you so desired. And if you're running a business, depending on where you're running that business, there could be tax implications for you even as a node owner. In the United States, there's a special code that is software. That node is software, and a business owner could take that and just write it off. We have people who bought the nodes and written that off in their business, and then they've dedicated some of their switch towards charitable organizations, which is a second write-off. There's
mm.
all kinds of different ways that people participate at different levels, depending on the support they want to provide.
Yeah, love that so much. Kathy, just want to say a big thank you for being here and having this chat with me. And I'm sure we'll definitely be doing another conversation soon. But so appreciate your time and everything that you're doing. Really, really grateful.
Thank you so much. I appreciate being here. Have a great evening.
Thanks, Kathy.